For 6 years, the Times Now Summit has gone beyond capturing India's rise. It has helped shape what comes next. As Times Now marks 20 years of credible, accountable journalism, the focus is not just on the journey so far, but on the road ahead. Because today, India is not just rising, it is leading. From digital innovation to global influence, the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047 is already taking shape. And the question now is clear. Not whether India will rise, but how it will lead. At the Times Now Summit, the country's most influential voices come together to define that path. And that brings us to this year's theme, celebrating Times Now at 20, shaping India at 100. In this episode, witness a fireside chat with Professor Dr. Maneesha Vinodini Ramesh, Pro-Vice Chancellor Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, and Dean and Professor at Amrita School of Sustainable Futures. This exclusive was moderated by Senior News Editor with Times Influence, Sumit Lakhotia. Take a look. I wanted to understand, because of the work that you're doing in water systems and disaster resilience, how are you seeing for India's blueprint for sustainability, and since we're talking about 2047, Viksit Bharat, what needs to be addressed on priority? What's number one that we should be focusing on?
Thank you, Sumit, for the very well deserving question which you have brought in. I think one of the greatest opportunity what I have received at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham is majorly to work in communities. So the University has provided us an ecosystem where the faculty and the students can live in the communities, understand the challenges, then co-develop the solutions for the villagers. So you work with them. So during this process, when we work with them, what we have learned is like it is imperative that we have to start looking at the challenges in the community, not as isolated systems, as integrated and interlinked systems. And based on that, you understand what is the challenge there, and then build integrated solutions which are adaptive to the climate change which is coming in and responsive enough to predict also and take forward. So a larger extent of involvement, inclusiveness of multi-stakeholders are needed today. See, we have been trained to be like a top-down approach. How can we change from top-down approach to bottom-up approach? So it's like a hybrid model you have to bring in, where that inclusiveness can be brought in, where the primary data will drive us what we have to do. And stop seeing as isolated islands. Like, you know, I am a water scientist, I'll do only water, or I am a disaster manager, I'll do only disaster, is not the way to move forward. Because all of these are interlinked. So when we were working also in communities, just to give you an example, like one of the tribal villages in Kerala, in Motakara, when we were working, what we have seen is like, when we went to the village with the students, we have seen that they're all below poverty lines. We didn't understand what it is, why it has happened. So initially what we have found it is they don't have, electricity, they don't have food, all this. So we said first we will solve electricity so that we can bring every other thing there. But while we were working with them, we understood that the only job they knew was lemongrass distillation. And what happened was when the forest rule changed, they cannot cut the firewood to distill the wood. So which made them a bigger problem. They all went into poverty, below poverty, because the whole skill set is gone. And then the students actually build a solar thermal based lemongrass distillation system, and that bring out a livelihood system.
That's quite an interesting point that you brought on, ma'am. I also want to understand, yes, of course, it's important to, have a good ecosystem, and it's not just about the growth of one person, one individual, even one community. It's all across that it has to be. I know you have been through these live-in labs. You've generated real-time community-level data across hundreds of locations. Can you tell us that how is this? Everybody says data is the new oil, data is the most important thing, but it's all about how do you interpret that data? How do you use that data? How are you using this data to, again, you're taking data off the community, but helping it back,
helping back the community. Can you tell us on that?
So before I come into that, the basic thing is when we started the Live-in Labs, the origin of it is because our Chancellor Sri Mata Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham Amma wanted to actually ensure that compassion is brought into the current generation. Because as you see that any child, each of us have our own children, we give everything to them. So they don't know the struggle others are going through. So because of that, there is a lack in compassion. Amma wants to make sure younger generation builds that compassion, arises that compassion in them so that they feel like helping and serving. That's how the Live-in Labs program itself came in. So one of the major thing which Amma has advised us is make sure that you don't make community dependent on you. They have to be independent. They have to be empowered. That is where it's not enough to give them a solution. You have to really make them understand why this problem is coming, what action of mine is causing it, or somebody else, how they are interlinked, etc. So that made us to actually bring in the data platforms where citizen-centric approach has been brought in. Like if I give you an example for water, we have something called Mera Gav Hamara Jal. It's a digital platform, GIS-based digital platform, integrated with a mobile application also. So community is trained to actually map their different sources, and they will also do the water quality testing, and then those data also will come, their resources data will come, their climatic data will come. All of these are analyzed in an indicator level, and then index is built, and based on that it is looked into with the national target what the government want to achieve. So you will come to know on a household level where we stand. So in your policy decision, this data will drive, the real data will drive how my policy has to be changed, how my interventions. And we gave an AI backend which will basically help them to actually give the suggestions of intervention. So we are not telling go and do this. We say these are the best suggestions. Now the Pani committee or the village committee can decide which one to take forward. So we wanted to make sure they are able to independently run, maintain and operationalize whatever is coming. At the same time, their awareness level is brought in. So the empowerment level can be brought up by each of these ones.
Are you seeing ways with technology being used where the community is coming in and maybe connecting so that community can work together to come up with either solutions or provide support in times of needs? How are you seeing technology play a role in that space?
So what we are seeing is, like as I said, that we have this landslide early warning system in the Munnar in Western Ghats actually. In those areas before our system came in, majorly what we have seen is like every monsoon season, the people self-evacuate to their relatives' houses a little farther away, which affects their job, which affects the children's education. Now, after this system has been put in, they wait for our warning. They are very clever to ask when the rain starts. They'll ask, is it the first level warning or the second level warning? What are the actions we have to take? And they are and even if the government says, they are very clear what is a regional warning, what is it. So if the government comes and says you have to evacuate because of this warning, they will ask, is it a regional or a site specific? Because our site has sensors. I may not have to even evacuate at this point because the sensor doesn't say that. So they are able to do that. The other approach which we have done is, like, I come from a place where Indian Ocean tsunami has struck, Indian Ocean tsunami 2004, and we were part of it, and more than 200 people died in that area. And Amma has initiated, our Chancellor Amma has initiated a larger program of disaster resilience itself in that area, of which one of the agenda was to make that area tsunami ready. So we actually worked with the whole community in the Alapad region to, they geospatially map what is their vulnerability, what is their risk, and when you have a different Richter scale of earthquake happening at different locations, how much it will fall on me. And if I have to evacuate, based on my location, how do I evacuate? Should I evacuate vertically or should I evacuate horizontally? And where are the places I have to give the warning messages and alert message? Because tourists comes in that place, so they need to know also. So they decided where to put the maps, where to put the warnings, alerts, etc. for a person who knew it. So the complete disaster resilience and making that area tsunami ready, the whole local governance system, the university, the NGO and the people together worked out for making it. So there is a larger change which we can bring in if we work together with them.
Well, that's great to know, because it's just about if everybody works together, then we get better results and we move forward, because at the end of the day, this is something that's going to impact everyone. I want to ask you
just put one point?
Yes, please, of course.
What I would suggest, or I would request the government of India to look into is like to enhance the funding which they've put for the preparedness and early warning and predictions aspect, because that is very important at this time, because most of the time we tend to give any amount of funding after a disaster happens. We have to shift our focus from that to put the funding way early to make them resilient and have early warning systems in place and predictable systems in place so that we can make them resilient.
Yeah, absolutely, because the early warning systems are, of course, most important in situations when there is a crisis. I wanted to ask you, from an educational institution point of view, what are some of your learnings from what you are teaching to students, from how you're seeing them develop, from what they are doing out there based on what they're learning at AVV? Your kind of advice, guidance to the larger education system as to what can be done differently, because the need of the hour is something different from what it was many years ago.
So the major aspect is, like, see, earlier when we were studying, the faculty will say, I have a project with me, can you do it? You take up the project and you do it. And you don't know real requirements, what it is. What it needs, I feel, is like providing them the experience of the challenge what is faced by. That experience of this is the challenge. When they experience this is the challenge, they are able to come up with a better solution. And also in your teaching, it is very important to bring in the design skills. How do you design? So that means the major thing is you have to evolve their thinking process than writing and getting marks and everything. You have to evolve their thinking process, and how do you help them in applying in real scenarios? So your testing of them has to, your evaluation of a student, that pattern itself need to change to adapt this. Today, if you give anything, any question to them, they will put into ChatGPT, Gemini and give you an answer. They really don't need a teacher. So why do they need a teacher? The teachers has to ask that question. So what is that knowledge extra you are going to bring in? What is that experience you are going to give them, which will give them go beyond these systems itself and learn something and build it? So the whole ecosystem has to change in the way they are going to get into this peer-based learnings, experience-based learnings. And one of the major thing is from day one, see, India, what are we lacking? We, for a time, we were contributing in science. Now government is pushing into innovations. Okay, transition from building science to innovation itself is a tough thing for the education people to think of. Because when you have to bring in innovation, business skills has also to come in there. Market knowledge is very important. So if you don't give the student those skills from the day one also, you are making a student who is not apt for the next generation, whatever to be provided. So you have to have interdisciplinary programs which will provide them the opportunity to learn the skill sets from these multiple domains and apply those in real challenging places. So you have to really change your curriculum and your course planning in that manner.
Fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure, ma'am, talking to you and getting these very important insights and this great view on India at 100, the sustainability blueprint. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and for talking to us here at the time.
Thank you.
No conversation, ladies and gentlemen, about India's future is complete without the voices that will inherit it. With one of the youngest populations in the world, India's greatest strength lies not just in its numbers, but in the ideas, ambition, and clarity of its youth.
Well, to share their view on the subjects that matter the most to them under the topic Build People Power India, the 1.5 billion advantage, may I invite on stage Pritika Gatike, Nav Mishra, and Anita Anna Binoy from Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham.
A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Let's welcome them on the stage.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a hearty thank you to the Times Now Conclave for allowing the youth of India to share our vision of 2047. My name is Pritika Gatike, pursuing my second year BTech in Robotics and AI from Amrita School of Engineering, Amritapuri campus. I'm the current president of Amrita Energy Swaraj Environmental Club, focused on dedicated solutions for sustainable engineering, and I'm also the co-founder of Locus AI, the travel app that is accessible for the entire public.
I am Nav Mishra, a third-year Bachelor's with Honours Molecular Medicine student at Amrita School of Nanosciences and Molecular Medicine, Kochi. ASNSMM is India's first nano-bio-focused research center, specializing in translational and personalized medicine. My core interests lie in stem cell biology, cancer biology, molecular biology, and bringing interdisciplinary research for real-world outcomes.
I am Anita Anna Binoy, a second-year BSc Honours Applied Physics student coming from Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Brahmasanam campus, Kochi. I'm deeply passionate about astrophysics and the field of biology. I am also a member of the Indian Knowledge System Research Center at our campus. Now, through my public speaking skills and my technical skills in physics, I would love to bridge the gap between science and its practical impact and lead India towards the year 2047. Now, as a student pursuing my bachelor's at Amrita, it's my honor to introduce its motto to you today, Shraddhavan Labhati Jnanam. It truly reflects the Institute's deep commitment to knowledge and character building. Now we can connect our motto to build India 2047 so that we can bridge the gap what India is lacking today. Let me just give you a brief understanding of our presentation today. So we will start off by listing the challenges today's youth would love to address, and this will be done by Nav Mishra. And we would love to propose our solutions for these problems, and this would be articulated by Pritika Gatike. And finally, I will be concluding on the key takeaways that would lead us to India at 2047.
Thank you, Anita. India 2047 marks 100 years of Indian independence, a century since we drove off the colonial empire, not with wealth or violence, but with the strength of our most important asset, our manpower. And now, 78 years after our tryst with destiny, India stands a rising force on the global stage, thanks to the efforts of each and every member proud to call themselves a citizen of the world's greatest democracy. Therefore, it is only fitting that we speak on the 1.5 billion advantage. 65% of the Indian population is aged below 35 years, of which the average age is 29. The vision of Viksit Bharat 2047 aims to harness this young workforce surplus as a determining force in the future of India's development. Recent key initiatives have built up India's foundational infrastructure for digital transformation, innovation-driven development, and inclusive growth. They must, however, evolve further to not just scale, grow, and provide infrastructure to our economy, but make us a global leader. Pritika, how do we address these issues?
Thank you so much, Nav. So our initial framework is Workforce Forum. In this digital age, it only makes sense that we integrate what we already have. We are not requesting a paradigm shift, but rather an integration of what already exists with us. We want a platform that integrates all the employees, all the workforce, and all the entrepreneurs of India. This will have 6 key components, the first being fund transparency. This has been very well implemented during the Startup India mission, where all funds were made transparent via their website. We would like to motivate and produce equal results of the same value, where we continue to also have fund transparency within venture capitalism and foreign investment. We also would like to open a skills passport, which is directly connected to the Aadhaar and backed by the government to ensure no middlemen requirement or consultancy when getting hired for industry. We want a digital healthcare system that is integrated in such a manner that insurance and other claims can be made without any shady business. We want industry interaction to the maximum because there seems to be a graduate gap that we would like to address further. And information dissemination is very obvious that some of the schemes that India has passed have not directly translated to the people of India. And so we would like to have a platform that integrates and ensures that every single scheme that we have is directly integrated with an upskilling approach that is directly connected to NPTEL and SWAYAM, motivating vocational courses similar to Skill India, but with a direct connection to the industry, allowing these courses to be put out on a large scale and hiring to be even larger. Our second business would be deep tech convergence network that we would like to propose, one that integrates startups, industry, and university on a large scale. This allows for IP co-ownership, research co-funding by not only government but by private institutions, and grants that are direct translations of the economy today. This will allow for higher publications and higher patent activity within the country. This was already implemented on a smaller scale in NIT Roorkela, where around 101 patents were put forward. Next, we would like to look into Build MSMEs. The building of MSMEs is very crucial within India, and we have 6 different frameworks to ensure that the startup culture within India does not die after the first 5 years. This integration happens with idea generation, using think tanks to ensure that these ideas are of the utmost quality. We will use funding access directly connected to venture capitalism and so on, with incubation and mentorship directly coming from the industry and an industry linkage for a seamless process into the market, and lastly, global connectivity so that we have companies that are going outside India and not just inside. And now we will look into women's growth. Women's growth will be supported by the following factors. We would have to have a supportive workspace, one that ensures that women feel included within the workforce, a freelance platform for flexible hours, career re-entry infrastructure, Aadhaar secondary education tracking, and daycare infrastructure.
Right. I think that's also something that Prime Minister has spoken about. It's women-led growth that's going to take India to this vision of becoming Viksit by 2047. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was really wonderful listening to all of you. Thank you, Kritika, Nav and Anita. With such conviction to lead us into the future, we are definitely on the path towards a Viksit Bharat. And big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And I would like to request my co-host Swati to just honor these young children, and also, would request you to accept a little token of appreciation. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.